Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Sokha Yous. I'm with Mayo Employees Federal Credit Union. I'm a financial wellness counselor here. So thank you so much for joining us in person, online, or if you're watching this a little bit later, thank you so much for clicking on our video. At any time during the presentation, you can just submit your questions, whether you're here in person or online. And if you're watching this a little bit later, or if you want to chat with me later, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. This is my contact information. It's best to reach out via email. And if you can't write this down now, you can always go to our website, to mayocreditunion.org, under the financial education tab, and you'll see our contact information on there. And today's topic, we're going to talk about budgeting. So the fun B word, right? So budgeting. Every time when someone think about budgeting, or talk about budgeting, they think about restrictions, and this is something that I'm trying to, just reframe our mindset a little bit when it comes to the term budgeting. So on today's agenda, we're going to talk about what is a budget, right? The importance of having a budget, how to budget is the most important thing. Different financial goals, why it's important to have financial goals while you're on your budgeting journey or your financial journey. Debt management. A lot of people have some sort of debt, whether that's a mortgage debt, student loans, or car loans, whatever that may be. We can talk about debt management, and it's something that I'm able to help our members out too if you want to meet with me personally. And last but not least, we'll talk a little bit about additional tools and supports that we have here at the credit union, but also different tools that are out there online too. So basically put, what is a budget? It's really just a spending plan based on your income, your expenses, and your financial goals. It's a way for you to keep track of how much you earn, how much you spend, how much you want to save towards, your financial future. You'd be surprised how many people, don't know how much income they're bringing in per month when they meet with me. One of the first things that I like to have people do is, just write down the list of your bills, some of your expenses, some of your debt, and your income. And so a lot of times you're like, well, I don't even know how much I earn, total. I have this much going to this other account. It's going to be different every paycheck. Well, if your paycheck kind of fluctuates, then the case would be just kind of take the last 3 months average. And a lot of times people don't know, what kind of bills are going out. So I highly suggest people to audit their accounts, whether that's your credit card accounts or your debit card accounts. It's always good to audit your accounts. We'll go a little bit further into that here in just a little bit. So what is a budget? It does not require you to be good at math at all. I still use my calculator for some of the basic numbers. So just, don't be shy when it comes to budgeting. It doesn't mean that you can't buy things that you want, but I just kind of want you to put that in your plan. For example, if there's like a purse that you want that's, a little bit out of your budget right now, you can always put that as part of your financial goals. It doesn't have to be that you need to get it within the next couple of paychecks, but kind of hold off a little bit, right? Say no for now, just put in, just set a deadline as to when you want those items. It just means that I want you to still live your life, but really just have you be more intentional and be more organized of what's on your budget spreadsheet, right? It should not make you feel overwhelmed. So a lot of times people come to me and they said, you know what, this is the most money I've made in my entire life. I don't know where all my money is going to. I don't know why I don't have anything in savings or barely enough in savings. So that would be, if you're feeling overwhelmed when you're looking at your budget, if you feel overwhelmed when you look at your bank account or credit card statements, then perhaps it's time to come in and talk to someone about that. Having a budget is really important because it really creates a freedom and financial stability and helps you really track your expenses. That way you know exactly how much is coming in and how much is going out in different categories in your life, right? So different seasons throughout the year, also different season throughout your life is going to cost different amount, right? So if you're in the season where daycare is very expensive, then you have to budget for daycare. But once your kids are out of daycare and they're going to school, they're going to require different kind of budgeting for that. They may need a little bit more beginning of the school year, and then things taper off a little bit where you're able to save a little bit more towards the springtime or summertime. However that works out for you, but it's really important to kind of know what kind of expenses are coming up within the next month, 2 months, or a couple years for you. That comes from writing down your financial goals. And then really just like budgeting for how much it's going to cost you, or how much it's going to cost you per paycheck, how much time you have to save for those items, right? So you will, having a budget allows you to, you will know how much is directed towards other bills, whether it's weekly bills, monthly bills, or yearly bills. Towards the end of this presentation, I'll do like an actual demonstration on a budget spreadsheet. So you'll have access to this too if that's what you want. It's just an Excel spreadsheet, so anyone can have it as long as you just let us know. We can email it to you. Another importance of having a budget, it helps you save money for financial goals. So it's really, really important to have financial goals so you know exactly where to direct your money to. Because you don't want to, the last thing I want people to do is just work and have their money go towards regular living expenses. We want to go towards fun money. We want to go towards guilt-free spending. We want to go towards vacation, whether that's your own vacation or family vacation later on. So set those as financial goals. What's important for you now and your family now? Set that as financial goals. And if your goal is to save down for a down payment or a house in 2 years, the budget will give you the freedom to reach your goals. That way you know what your future income will be, the cost, and how much debt you have to pay off in a timely manner before you can, reach those other financial goals. And also, when you have a budget, it really helps you avoid going into future debt, right? Going into further debt, because you know how much money you have left over. So it really prevents you from overspending instead of, just kind of swiping or just hitting, clicking on the buy now button online. So when you have a budget, it really makes you more conscious of what's available in your account. It can even save marriage and relationships. As we know, according to studies, most couples argue about money, and a lot of divorces end because of financial reasons too. Having a financial meeting with yourself and your partner is really important, and being transparent about your financial journey is really important too. So just think of it this way, you grew up with your relationship with finances differently than how your significant other or spouse grew up. So their relationship with money might be so different. They might spend as soon as they get that paycheck hit their account, because that's what they're used to seeing, right? From their parents, from their grandparents, they're used to seeing that. They're used to seeing the struggle, and they're comfortable in that financial struggle. You, on the other hand, might have been, your parents might have sat you down. If you're one of the lucky ones, your parents might have sat you down and said, look, this is how much income that we have coming in. This is how much our bills are. This is how much is left over. So I understand that you want to join the soccer league, but we might not have it for this paycheck or the next one, but we can prepare for the next season, right? So just think of it this way. So if you feel like you're miscommunicating with your partner when it comes to finances, that just might be a reason for you to really discuss what was your relationship like with finances growing up, and see if you can talk to someone about how you can blend in those two relationships and see what needs to be healed, so that we can move forward and reach your financial goals together. Having a budget really reduces a lot of financial anxiety too. It really prepares for emergencies, and also keeping you out of debt. A fun little fact from Bankrate that 67% of Americans cannot come up with $400 cash for emergency without putting it on their credit card. So if you find yourself in this situation, we should meet with a budget buddy, whomever it is that you trust and confide in when it comes to finances, or you can meet with a financial wellness counselor and see what we can do, what kind of plan we can put you on, or if you just need a second set of eyes to review your budget and see where we can cut out some expenses so that we can have some money in savings. That way you don't fall into this 67% category of Americans who cannot come up with $400 for emergency. So how to budget, right? Talking about budget, we understand the importance of it. So how do we actually do it? First of all, we want to track your expenses. It takes time and effort. It's not funny. It's not fun. It's not sexy in any way, because you have to audit your accounts and you have to actually go through all your spending, right? Why did I go to Chipotle 5 times last week when I was only supposed to go there once? And what's available in my budget? Why do I still have this subscription when I thought I canceled it a year ago? So auditing your accounts is not fun at all, but it's absolutely necessary for your budgeting journey. It's good to always know where you start before you start moving forward towards your goals, right? So if you have anxiety looking over some of your statements, perhaps just, make it a date with a friend, make it a date with your significant other or with yourself. Have a glass of wine if you need to, or you can just schedule an appointment with us and we can definitely walk you through it too and help you audit some stuff. And if you want to set your, when it comes to budgeting, we always like to have, a set amount, right, to certain categories. So for example, if you want to set your grocery budget to like $500 a month, but when you audit your accounts, you realize the last 3-4 months you've been spending $1,500 on groceries a month. So lowering it to $500 a month might not be really doable might not be really easy for you in the first month, right? So it's a way for you to really scale, to really figure out what is your baseline. Is your baseline now at $1,500 for groceries when you can really realistically cut it back to $1,000? But work your way down there. You don't have to lower it to $1,000 right away. You can just lower it to maybe $1,400 the first month, and then the second month on your journey lower to $1,300, and eventually continuously lower it until you and your family are comfortable enough living off of that amount for that category. And then if you eventually want to lower it to $500, $800, just keep it at that amount. But remember, it's one of those variable expenses that's going to change from season to season too. So it could be that you're planting more things during the summertime, so you don't need to go to the grocery store to get produce that often. It's a little bit cheaper too. Or it could be during the wintertime when you have to go to the store to get produce more often too. So it changes from season to season, as like mentioned before. So it's one of those variable expenses, but we still want to put a cap on that category in life and what's the absolute most that we do not want to go over in order for us to stay within our budget and in order for us to reach our financial goals. A couple different ways to budget. One of them is the 50-30-20 budget. You might hear that around the internet. So 50% of your total income is going to go towards necessary expenses, things like your mortgage, your rent, car note, cell phone, things like that. Now, this is the net amount. So this is the amount that's deposited into your account, okay, not the gross amount that what you get paid before all the extra stuff get taken out on your paycheck. So then 30% of your total income goes toward discretionary expenses. Those are the variable expenses like, gas, groceries, things like that. And 20% of your income goes towards savings or debt repayment. I really, really like the zero-based budget where you give every single dollar a job. That way you know exactly where every dollar is going to, because more often than not, a lot of people are not really keeping track of every dollar, but if you're restarting on a new budget journey, it's really important to know where every dollar is going to. And then eventually, once you get comfortable with it, you can always relax a little bit. You don't have to track every dollar, you don't have to track every penny. But to get people started, I really like to put them on a zero-based budget. We'll show you what it looks like here in just a little bit. But right now, we're just going to talk a little bit about financial goals. Why have them? Why is it important to have financial goals? As mentioned before, I don't want you to go to work just to pay your bills. I want you to go to work and then have the freedom to schedule your money towards fun. I want you to have your money allocated towards different activities in life that makes life worth living for you, whatever that looks like for you. Maybe you like to go out to eat a lot. Maybe you need to lower your grocery bill and just have more towards eating out or dining out. Budgeting. So whatever, you just need to have a chit chat with yourself and your family and your partner and say, what is important to you guys? What is important to you? Is traveling important to you? What do we have to do in order for us to take 3 trips this year versus 1 trip last year? What do we need to cut out, right? And do we need to, can we take that trip within a year, or is it going to take us about 2 years to budget, and that way we can take the whole family to Disney World? What does that look like for you? You can look at short-term goals, medium-term goals, and also long-term financial goals as well. Some of the examples would be emergency savings, right? That's non-negotiable for me. It should be non-negotiable for everyone. We should always have a base emergency savings. The Dave Ramsey's of the world would say, $1,000, but this day and age, let's say $1,500 or $2,000. Things are very expensive. That's just the very base that you keep in a high yield savings account or a money market account if you're with a credit union. And you don't touch it unless it's an absolutely true emergency. Things like your tires blowing, you absolutely need that money to fix your tires, to get some new tires. Not that, a sale is ending today. That's not an emergency, right? So we want it to be a true emergency. Buying a house is another financial goal. It can be either short-term, medium-term, or long-term goals for you, right? Short-term would be sometime within this year or the next year and a half. Medium terms would be within 2 to 5 years from now. What does that look like for you? Where is your life going to be in the next year? Where is it going to be in 5 years from now? Paying off student loans, that's a goal for a lot of people. Buying a car or paying off your vehicle. Retirement, long-term goal. What does that look like for you? Do you want to stay here in Minnesota or the state where you're at now? Or do you want to go to South America or to Southeast Asia? Where I'm from, Cambodia, it's a little bit cheaper to live out there. How much money do I need to retire, if I want to retire out there? So you really got to think about your long-term goals, your retirement. What does that look like for you? And for some people, wedding season's coming up, starting in May. So you might want to save for a wedding too and a baby. It's always important to save for a baby. Those can be like for baby items or for their 529 plans for their education later on. And deductibles, right? It's really important to know how much your car deductible is. Is your comprehensive deductible different than your collision deductible? How much are those? Do you have enough in your account, in your emergency savings to put down deductibles so that we can get your vehicle fixed? Or your health insurance deductible, your home insurance deductible, how much are those things? That we have enough available in your account so that we can pay your deductible if anything happens. Vacation, again, I want you to budget so you can live your life the way that you want to. Vacation is really important to you and your family, then I want you to budget for that. And most importantly, paying off debt, right? So you can't really save up too much money if you still have debt out there, high yield interest debt, such as a high yield, a high interest rate on a credit card or a loan or a car loan. So if your goal is to pay off debt this year, then we can definitely work together on that. So again, that will transition us into debt management, the importance of having monthly expenses. Your monthly expenses will drop once you pay off all your debt, which means more money for you to invest into your future financial goals, more money for you to invest into just life now. It'll also give you less stress. You'll have less stress, more of emotional relief once you pay off your debt. And that's always good, right? So we always want to we don't want, like a cloud hanging over our head saying we have to pay this each month, otherwise then it, affects your credit, things like that. It gives you more freedom to work less hours or even quit a second job if you pick up a second job to pay off your debt. Paying down debt reminds you to address harmful spending behavior that got you there in the first place. How did you get to this amount on your credit card? Were you looking for a coping mechanism, and is your coping mechanism shop till you drop? If it's if you're doing, what is it, retail therapy, is that your coping mechanism? Is that why your credit card bills are so high and you have a lot of loans? Or do you need to explore different, healthier financial coping mechanisms? So really, when you take a look at your debt each month, just ask yourself, am I doing better? How did I get here in the first place? Write down what you felt. Why did I want to buy that? Why did I spontaneously buy that when I know it's not within my budget? Do you feel guilty afterwards? Do you feel, elated at the moment when you get that product or that item, and then you feel guilty afterwards, and then you kind of stay up, keeping yourself up late, worrying about the finances and stuff and why you did that. So if you find yourself in that situation, perhaps it's time to talk to someone about that, okay? Debt snowball, so a couple different ways to pay off your debt. I really like the debt snowball repayment method, where you're paying the smallest balance first. So it doesn't matter what the interest rate is, you're just listing off all of your debt from smallest balance to the largest balance, right? So if you don't know where to find your debt, you can also go to annualcreditreport.com, or a lot of people have Credit Karma. You can go to different, directly to Experian.com, TransUnion, or Equifax.com, and you can just pull up your credit report. A lot of them are free, and just list off all your debt. Make sure everything on your credit report is accurate, and there's not any fraudulent activities on there or accounts. So just list off all of your debt from the smallest balance first, and you'll pay the smallest balance and work your way up. So psychology behind it is little quick wins, right? So if you're paying off a $500 debt, you'll feel great about yourself. You know what, I did this. I'm starting my journey. I'm able to pay off this $500. That's a huge accomplishment for me. So now you can roll that money, that payment onto the next debt, right? So it allows you to see results a lot sooner, which can provide a sense of accomplishment and motivation to continue your debt repayment journey. The debt avalanche payoff method, it pays off the largest debt with the highest interest rate first. It pays off the debt with the highest interest rate first. So it doesn't matter what your balance is, we're just gonna list it off based off your interest rate. This helps you pay off your debt a little bit faster, which saves you some money on interest repayment. Different ideas to reduce expenses. In order for you to have some extra money coming in to pay your debt, you can change your cell phone provider, you can change your internet, your cable, whatever it is. You can always call them up and negotiate an amount. And if If you're able to, if you need to, just switch to a different company if they're cheaper too. Cancel gym memberships if you need to. If you're not using it, it's getting warmer, you can walk outside. Well, except for today, it snowed a little bit, but in the warmer weather, if you're sincerely not using gym membership, you might want to consider canceling it. You can cut different streaming services or consider different internet providers. A lot of us, we started out saying, I'm only going to have one streaming service. And then all these other ones pop up, right? It's got to be at least 30 different streaming services for different channels. So while you're auditing your accounts and you realize, I haven't watched Peacock in a long time, or I don't need Hulu Sports anymore because I don't, football is over. I don't need that $89 coming out of my account anymore. Just go ahead and cancel it. So it's really important to kind of just keep an eye on your streaming services or different subscription services and see if you absolutely need it and when was the last time you actually used it. And if you haven't used it in a while, just go ahead and cancel it and cut that out. Also, if you are in a checking account or with an institution that charges you a monthly service fee for having your checking account or savings account with them, it might be time to move on over and that relationship move on over to a different institution. It can be with a credit union like us where you can have several savings accounts, several checking accounts without any monthly fees. You don't have to have a minimum transfer from or minimum deposit either each month to avoid those fees. We just don't have any fees altogether. So in a little bit here, when we go into the budget spreadsheet, you'll be able to see where I like to have a lot of members just have different savings account, right? Again, we don't charge any extra fees for savings account. You can have as many categories as you want. So you can have one savings account for emergency, one savings account for vacation, another savings account for paying off, saving for a down payment on a house. So it's really important that if the institution that you're in right now is charging you fees for these, just know that you can always move to a different institution that's not charging you fees. You can also refinance your loans to lower your interest rate too. That can be your vehicle loan, your mortgage, your student loans, right? So pretty much you can talk to our loan officers here about any loans that you currently have if you're interested in refinancing. Because if your credit is better now than they were when you got the loan, you might want to consider refinancing. So that way, the lower your interest rate, that means the less money you have to pay towards that debt, means that more money is going to be in your pocket. So more money in your pocket, more money available, you can put that towards other financial goals or just put it right back into the loan and pay it off a little bit faster too. The most important thing is I want you to tailor your goals to your current lifestyle and also to the lifestyle that you see yourself living in about 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or even 50 years down the line. So it's really important that you do that. Ideas to accumulate more savings. Of course, we always want to set goals. You can automate your savings. So you can go to, if you work for Mayo, you can just go to HR Connect in their payroll and have a certain percentage or certain amount deposit into a separate savings account outside of your regular checking account. Or if you just have your entire paycheck deposit into your checking account, you can automate a certain amount directly go into a separate savings account too. So automate your savings, that way you take yourself out as a middleman, that way you don't stop yourself from reaching your goals. You can always meal plan or dine out less, right? We all know eating out costs a lot these days. If you're in position to, you can carpool, avoid extra trips, sell items, baby gears, household items, things like that. Or if you're able to, if the time allows, or if your stress level allows, pick up a gig job or a part-time job. It's a gig economy. You can just download an app and start working, start driving for Uber Eats or DoorDash within 24 to 48 hours. So we're going to do a little bit of the budget demo here. So I'm just going to go over here. Okay. So this is, anyone can have access to this, and I can just email it to people here. But so this is our 2026 budget spreadsheet. I'm just going to go scroll in and out and zoom in and out here for a little bit. On the left here, you'll see the this is our payroll calendar. If you're Mayo's payroll calendar is on here too. On the left-hand side, I'd like you to list off your quarterly expenses, right? So things like if you have trash, they don't charge you every month. Sometimes some places or some company charge you every 3 months or so. So if you have quarterly expenses, you can put the expense here, what the expense is, the amount, and the due date on there. That way you don't forget it, right? So biannual expenses, yearly expenses, and periodic expenses. Periodic expenses would be, during the fall time or during football season or track season, the kids will require a different amount. So if that fee is $500 and that's going to be too much for you to pay all at once, you can just put it as part of your financial goals, right? Split it up into different payments, or split it up over the payments with how many paychecks you have left before that due date, right? So it's really important to list off your expenses. So if you're going to get one of these budget spreadsheets, it's going to populate like this, but remember, it doesn't belong to anyone. This is just something that I put in there that is common in Olmsted County. So for example, fill in your income, right? So, the figure will change here, it'll all add up for you. List off all your fixed expenses. Fixed expenses are, again, things like mortgage, electricity, and, Minnesota Energy. It kind of varies from month to month, but we know that it's going to be due on that same day. Car insurance, pretty much the same day. Cell phone, streaming services, whatever it is, that's a fixed amount for you. And then down here, you can list off your variable expenses, whatever that's like for you and your household. That'd be for groceries. What is the maximum that you're willing to spend on groceries each month? You can break it down per paycheck too. So what's the most you're willing to pay per paycheck? Gas for vehicles, different hobbies. We want you to still have hobbies. Is it hunting season? Is it sports? Is it, are the kids going to be going to camp this summer? So you can kind of budget for that too. And personal care, that can be you going to, get Botox every month or something, if that's what your personal care is, right? Or you getting your hair cut, or the kids getting a haircut. Entertainment, what does that look like for you and your family? So you can always put a cap on that. We still want you to budget for every dollar, but we still want you to really live your life, and really reassess. This month, if this is our maximum that we're willing to spend on this category, was that comfortable for us? That we go over budget last month in personal care? Do we need to readjust our budget a little bit too? So again, they're variable expenses. I want you to set a maximum, but if it's not, if it's not doable for you and your family, I want you to kind of readjust it a little bit. So, and also sinking funds and savings. So this is where financial goals come in. I like to have our members write down the financial goals, just like they're writing down their bills, right? So I want you to pay into these accounts, because just like you're paying into bills each month, I want you to pay into these accounts, these savings account, every time you get paid or every month, however you get paid, however you choose to do it. So that way you're kind of forcing yourself to put money towards these savings account. And again, it's really important if you just put in a high yield savings account or a money market account, and it's not, and then the total of all the expenses. So it's really important that you list down the income, the expenses, and down here, sometimes I like to have people write down their accounts, how much is in their account, different financial goals. What is the category? What is the goal that we want to reach? What is the amount? When do we want to start? When is the ending date, the absolute last date that we have to have that amount by? And then how many paydays are between now and then, and split it up that way. Different debt, right? So you always want to list off your debt. The creditor that you owe, you include your mortgage, anyone that you owe money to. The interest rate is really important, whether you're going to do debt, the snowball repayment or the debt avalanche repayment. The balance, what is the credit limit, so that way we can take a look at utilization percentage and see if we need to pay something down a little bit sooner. The minimum payment. So, and sometimes I meet with people every paycheck, and you can do this on your own too, but you can always see this will be like your main bill area, but when you kind of scroll over, you can write down the dates that you get paid, how much you get paid. Let's say in this situation, say $3,000, right? So you'll see, I don't know if you can see online, but once you play around a little bit with this spreadsheet, you'll be able to see, write down what bills are due, right? So your mortgage is due, so you have to pay like $1,800. And then once that, you can scroll down and see how much money is left over for you to pay in other bills, pay in other categories and other sinking funds too. Ideally, this is what we want to put towards our savings each month, but if it's not available, if we don't have that available every month, then we can always budget as close to that as possible. So you can always scroll over, put the date, put your pay dates up here, whatever it may be, so you can play around with it. But if you're more interested in the 50-30-20 budgeting method, this is on the next tab down here. You can just take a look at that. So out of $6,400, 50% of that income will go towards that their fixed living expenses. And then 30% will go towards variable expenses, 20% will go towards savings and debt repayment. So you can play around with this here. It's just pretty much the same thing, just kind of play around with it, just different percentage. So when it comes to debt repayment, this is the debt avalanche. So for example, as you can see here, the debt avalanche means that you're going to list off your debt based off your interest rate first, the highest interest rate first, all the way down to the lowest one. So we're not really paying attention to the balance, just whatever is the highest one. This is what we're going to tax. So as a lot of people are getting tax refund. Well, I hope a lot of people are getting their tax refund back right now. So perhaps you're able to put like an extra $1,000. But if you can look at the numbers there, if we put an extra $1,000 towards your debt, it kind of changes the amount down here too. And if you are able to pay an extra, let's say $250 on top of your debt now, and you put that up here, the extra monthly payments, you can see how it really changes. You can see this first debt, if you put an extra $1,000 down towards this $4,000 balance, and you pay an extra $250 each month on top of the $125, with this first debt, you're gonna have it paid off month number 9. And then you're gonna use that money that you're paying, because you were paying $375 before, and roll it over towards the next debt. So then your Discover card would be your next one. But remember, you focus on one debt at a time and you pay the bare minimum, whatever the minimum is for the other debt. So if your Discover is asking for $57, do $57, not a penny over. Every single extra penny is gonna go towards that first debt first. And then once you pay that off, then you roll everything over to the next debt. And then we also have the debt snowball. So unlike the debt avalanche, the debt snowball, you're just listing off with the balance first, right? So we pay off the smallest balance first and we work our way up. We're not really focusing on the interest rate. Again, if you want to pay an extra $100 or an extra $1,000 as the first time startup, as you can see, the numbers change a little bit. And as when you're doing a debt repayment journey, choose one debt to focus on first and pay the bare minimum on all these other debt, and then put all these extra money towards the first debt. Once that's paid off, you roll it over to the second debt, and so on and so on. So, and that's that. And I like to have people kind of write down their just account inventory, just know where everything is at, right? So sometimes when spouses, unfortunately pass, and the other spouse comes to me and said, I don't know where any of our financial stuff is at. I don't know who we owe a balance to, or who our credit card company is, where our assets or investments are at. A lot of times it's very difficult to kind of track those things down. So we can always start with the credit report first and try to go from there. But if, even for yourself, if you know that no one else is relying on your financial stuff, you still want to put in one area. You don't necessarily have to put down your username and password if you're not comfortable with it, but just kind of have your basic information, your bank, your credit card, investment, your assets, your insurance. Like, who do you have your insurance through? Do you have extra life insurance too, outside of work insurance, your credit cards and your loans? So kind of play around with it. And if you really want to, you can play around with this tab too, which I just call the bird's eye view. It kind of gives you an idea, in this section, the income category, how much income you have coming in each month. I'm just gonna make it, it's hard to see, but it lists off the months up here, but it gives you a year to date at the end. So it kind of gives you a bird's eye view, how much you paid in January versus how much you paid in June, and then how much it is total for the year at the end here. So this spreadsheet is absolutely free for anyone who wants it. Just like our service is free to you, financial wellness counseling is free to you if you're a member with us here. So if you have any questions about this or about the process, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. We'll be more than welcome to chit chat with you and get you on track here. So, so that's the budget spreadsheet for that one. And finally, we're going to go to additional tools and supports. You can always meet with me virtually or in person or over the phone for different ideas on how to better plan ahead for your financial future. You can use different tracking tools. So we have our tracking tools here too with the credit union. There's so many good apps out there for you to take a look at. YouNeedABudget.com, Rocketmoney.com is really good too. So many different apps out there for you to track your budget. And also what's really important is to know your budget score. So if you go to annualcreditreport.com, it's a free website. They do not give you your credit score, but it gives you access to all 3 of your credit bureaus. So it's really accurate. And if a way for you to keep tabs on all your expenses with us here, we have online mobile banking, e-statements, automatic savings, transfers, and bill pay. So we have a lot of different available tools here with us too. And again, if you have any questions, please reach out to me, whether it's right now or if you're a little bit shy, you can always send me an email, or if you want the budget spreadsheet, you can email me too. So that concludes that. Do we have any questions online at this time? No? Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope to see you soon for our next presentation. Have a wonderful